Thank you. As it says up there, my name is Neil Gavin. I'm going to be talking today about the language around redundancy and maybe shifting some of that language into a different sphere. I'm going to share a personal story around that and then draw some parallels with learning and development. And my guru is sitting out there, two of them, in fact you're all bloody gurus, has insisted that I do this without reference to my notes. So I'm going to accept the challenge and we'll see how it plays. So off we go, the first Ignite. So this will be my third Ignite talk. The first one I ever did was at CIPD annual conference about 3 years ago. Anybody that was there might remember my paper blizzard as I was throwing notes all over the place, which just reflected a sense of panic as much as anything else. This next slide has, we've started, it's all about practice, rehearse, tweak, tweak, tweak. This next slide has a medical situation in it. So that was me. That was me almost exactly 2 years ago. I'm recovering from a triple cardiac bypass operation. A complete out-of-the-blue whammy. I went in a month from chest pains to surgery. And this was me 24 hours later. Good for another 25 years, according to my cardiologist. So, not physically redundant. And I was home 5 days later and told to take 3 to 6 months off work. Fast forward, I was hit with a double whammy. When I was ready to go back to work, I found myself in a protected conversation about redundancy. That's quite a powerful word in itself, isn't it? They're very powerful words, but the protected conversation then became the usual negotiation, legal advice, all the other stuff that goes with that. And then I left the business after exactly 10 years service. I took the view I wasn't made redundant. I took the view that I was taking redundancy. In my absence, my team had stepped up, they delivered, they'd innovated, nobody died. So I felt it was time to walk away. So I repositioned myself. And I got to thinking about what that means in terms of learning and development. Is learning and development heading towards redundancy, or are we moving towards repositioning ourselves? And the fact is, the wind of change is blowing through business and it's blowing through learning and development. But it's a warm wind and it's bringing opportunities for us as a profession. Ooh, breathing space. But we need to move fast. We need to move at the speed of business. And we need to be able to think in terms of less process-heavy design, development, delivery, and much more agile working with the business and the knowledge within the business. Because the evidence is there that we need to be thinking about doing it differently. The evidence in the Towards Maturity benchmark reports, the good practice reports, Ross, the evidence is all there. We need to be thinking about doing it differently. Technology is no longer the barrier to learning that it used to be. People are using this stuff in their daily life and they expect to be using it in the workplace. You can see the kind of tools that we're already doing it with. Social media tools like Twitter, Facebook, Pinterest, Snapchat, all these kind of tools, people are using them already. And in many ways, that's their expectations. Well, they're learning from each other. In that respect, the modern learner no longer needs L&D to provide the route to all the content of their learning. So what are we going to do about it? They're arcing L&D at the moment. So if we're going to remain relevant, if we're going to be a valued business partner that are all about facilitating business performance improvement, then we need to be, as Disraeli said, we need to be thinking in terms of they're our leaders, we should be following them. The good news is L&D is catching up. We've embraced 70-20-10. There's still a place for 10%, which is the formal learning, but we need to be supporting the 20 and the 70% in the workplace itself. To do that, we need to build up our own toolkit, but not just digital. We need better facilitation, listening, all those kind of improvement skills, business performance, etc. But beware the magpie syndrome. Just because it's new and shiny doesn't mean it's always going to be applicable. So I'm thinking here things like virtual reality, but bear that in mind. Think about augmented reality. So L&D, not redundant, but repositioned, re-energized, re-skilled, repurposed. Yes, we have a future. We have a future to support the ongoing businesses. And just to close on my situation, I've gone from 0 to 5K, taken up running. I'm now running 2 or 3 times a week. So there you go. My heart's still pumping. So is L&D's. Let's hit the track. Thank you.
Learning isn't a 9 to 5 job anymore. And if you're in a learning function that opens at 9 and closes at 5, you will be bypassed. People don't want to learn at the time you think. Our role now is more about finding and helping people understand how to find solutions. People don't come to you and go, I want to learn. They come to you and say, I want to. And our job has to be about helping them understand how they can do what they need to do. That means understanding how new things are. In the past, I used to put a record on, and then it was a tape, and then it was a CD, and then it was a mini disc, and then it was streamed. It's all listening to music the same way, and learning arguably is the same way as well. What are the channels that are new? Sometimes we need to think about our budgets though that sit underneath it. I work in local government, we have no money. Hero. So we have to balance our budget and understand where we're spending it. That means sometimes we do have to spend on formal events, but sometimes we need to just recognise that we do need to do things a bit differently. We need to think about mixing things up a bit. We need to understand the difference between L&D and organisational development and the business practice, and recognising what's the right solutions at the right time. When was the last time we stood and looked in a mirror as L&D and said, what are we as a function? Not navel gazing, but actually looked and said, what is our purpose, what are our methods, and what are our metrics? We're great on methods, we're crap on metrics, and even worse on purpose. Because our purpose is learning. They say a leopard can't change its spots. That's a lie. Leopards can change their spots based on their environment. Learning and development can't change its spots because we've got too many legends that we still hold on to. Just evaluation. Level 4. Really? Really? Learning styles? Really? These are legends that we've got. And what we don't do is necessarily understand the patterns of our behaviour. Our patterns of behaviour need to be changed. We're doing the same things we've always done. We do things the same way. Do we recognise our pattern of behaviour and think about how we can do it differently? I don't think we do. The reason being is because others can't see what we do. People look at your learning function and go, they're the people I go to for a health and safety course. They're the people I go to help us with compliance. They don't come to you and go, you're the people who can help me solve my business problem. So we need to think about doing it differently. Other people have spoken about how we can do stuff differently. Finding the connections. If you're not on social media, there is a ton of learning and development activity bypassing you. You're not involved in conversations that are affecting our profession. Where? Here. There's dozens of people here in this room, this section here, but also across this whole place who can help you start to think about doing things a bit differently. Go to the providers and say, this is what I want, and see if they can deliver that to you. What we need to do is we need to start looking at the relationships that we've got with our business. We need to pull our hands down from our eyes and stop thinking we are a learning function and think of ourselves as a business function. Think about the relationship that we need to build with our business. We need to look beyond what we think is the right solution. We need to think strategically. We need to act tactically, and we need to deliver operationally. And at the moment, we're not doing any of those. We're acting strategically and assuming that everything will happen. We need to go beyond stock photos. We need to go beyond the obvious response, which is someone says, I want a course, and we go, absolutely. How many of those would you like? It's needing to do things a bit differently. We need to think about, got ahead of myself, stepping back. We need to think about our first step should not be into the fire. Our first step should be to step back and appreciate the whole of what's going on in our business and then coming up with the appropriate solution. If we do that, we will be appreciated more. We will be appreciated more by our business, we'll be appreciated more by the people we help and support, and we'll be appreciated more by our peers within the learning and development industry. Because this stuff matters. This stuff matters a lot. This stuff matters an awful lot. We now work, sorry, I said this was random. This wasn't random. This whole presentation, has anybody stood back? Has anybody watched and seen what I've been talking about? I'll give you the last few seconds.
So it might be a little bit disjointed, but also, like Andrew, this is my first Ignite. But I hope, and my peers here have all said great stuff, and there'll be more to follow. There's a lot around about what we should be doing, what we could be doing, but more often than not, that needs money. If it doesn't need money, it needs time, and it needs resource, which is ultimately money. Maybe I may show you a way of getting that money. So, disruptive. We talk a lot about disruptive in our space. It's a word, one of those words that's come up. Everything's disruptive. E-learning was disruptive in 2001. A lot of stuff is not disruptive, but I can tell you virtual reality is, and the apprenticeship levy is disruptive. So, 2D learning. We have been teaching, typically, all these hundreds, thousands of years in 2D, but we live in 3D. Now, that doesn't mean to say these aren't valid or right, but we need to look at a different way. L&D budgets. Who has seen their L&D budget rise? Funny enough, no hands. Typically, they've been shrunk, but do you know what? There is great news, because your L&D budget has just gone up because of the apprenticeship levy. So any of you that are paying into the levy, your L&D budget has gone up. So break down the silos that we have lived in learning and utilize this budget. And potentially we now have a new paradigm. So don't think about the levy as money just for apprenticeships. You can use it for your whole L&D function. So all that supporting learning that you might need to deliver, that levy could pay for it. So what if we could build these recognized training programs and they're accredited? What if they were more employer focused? Mindset, moving from bums on seats. There's been a lot of bad rap about apprenticeships, but we can now be valid. Here is a potential delivery model. This is something that I helped create, and I'm happy to share and give, but here's a typical model. And as you can see, these are all things that you are all doing every single day and have done for years. And let's not forget, you know, what's the fundamental elements of learning? Skills, behaviors, knowledge. And of course, we can incorporate all that element into a framework and utilizing apprenticeship levy monies to pay for it. And the bigger piece. Now, let's not forget, in the levy, in apprenticeships models, there's the 80-20 rule. 80% on program, 20% off the job. But the 20% could be all these elements, which again, you are already doing. Levy will pay for that. So, the trick behind it is not to look at it as a silo, as we've always done. It's now a tripartite model. That's the provider, that's you, the employer, and you, the learner. So we've moved from singular or double to tripartite. So on top of that, you might want to utilize newer technologies. But again, time, money, resource. Look at open source. Big fan of open source. I'm doing a big project right now. And with that open source, if we think about that whole ethos behind it, is community driven. And I believe we are now in a phase, we're at the cliff where we're moving away from vendor driven to community driven. So we will create, learners will create. So alongside that, what comes with that is virtual reality. So of course, VR's like the Matrix. You don't know it until you try it. I still don't understand the Matrix now, but I do understand VR because I've tried it. So, lots of people say to me, it costs a lot of money. No, it doesn't. Think about e-learning. You use it for one application. VR, you can use for multiple applications. And you can use it all the way through the workflow. All the way through. You can use it for recruitment, you can use it for onboarding, you can use it as part of the skills, you can use it at the end, you can use it for showcasing. Multiple. So if you think about ROI on that one piece of content, it's far more than a piece of e-learning. Also what you can do with it, multiplayer. So it isn't just about me wearing a headset and a computer and I'm just there playing in a great space, happy days. I can bring in other people from anywhere in the world or any locale and they can all join me. So what does it mean ultimately? We've now got a safe place to fail. I'm probably failing right now, so I don't feel very safe. But in VR, I'd be very safe. So we can work safely, we can practice. That was raised by Neil. So what is success? So if we can practice and practice more and more, become more and more competent and better at our jobs, we'll start to see what success really looks like. And from a corporate perspective, bottom line, top line. So, that's it all, folks. My contact details are here. Thank you very much.
Yeah, great. Okay. So, you'll have all heard the old adage that a woman needs a man like a fish needs a bicycle. This isn't anything to do with that. But I like to appropriate. No, we're not actually. But I like to appropriate metaphors and use them inappropriately. So that's what we're doing here. I'm going to talk about fishes and bicycles and change, and how when businesses change, actually, you as L&D folks sometimes have to teach fish to ride bicycles. So what can we do? And this is a bit of a rallying call where I'm going to encourage you to get behind teaching these fish. I know I've spoken for 15 seconds. I don't think you're moving forward. Yeah, I've been speaking for 1 minute, 17 seconds, so you know. Wow. I'm not going to walk, I'm going to stand and press, because that's what we do. So, now's the time for change. Businesses is changing, the way that we work is changing, as everyone's talked about, the things that we're having to look at is changing, and you as L&D practitioners are having to change with that. You're going to have to catch up, and you're going to have to work alongside and make sure that you're at the forefront of that change. This actually is an opportunity for you. This moment is an opportunity for you. You at the forefront, you've got the time and the opportunity to stand there and let people know that you can support this change. You can work with it. As L&D practitioners, you know that if you do what you always do, you're going to get the same results. You're going to get what you've always got. So actually, you can harness those relationships that you have with the businesses, you can work alongside the people that you've got, the leaders, the managers, and you can make these changes. So within what we do in a business change, we often have different things that we have to look at. So we have to work with our people, we need to make sure they know what's going on, they've got what they need. We need to work with our leaders and managers, make sure they've got what they need, and we do that through a number of work streams. I don't think that L&D gets the right prominence as a work stream. I should declare I am a transformational change leader. I don't think L&D gets enough prominence as a work stream. So, we always ask people, what do you think of the changes that we're making? What do you think of what we're doing? But we don't ask them, what do you need to make those changes work? We just ask them what they think. We don't necessarily equip our managers and leaders to deal with the responses to that. So you're there giving people skills, abilities and knowledge, but we need you there at the beginning of change. We need you there early on, planning and preparing and helping people to make change successful and be ready. We need you helping managers and leaders to deal with emotion. We need you helping managers to deal with the emotion around change. We need you helping them to deal with the anger, the fear, the upset. But at the same time, you need to develop the core skills. You're right there, Jules. Yeah. You need to develop those core skills, and we can't forget those core skills because that's what keeps business going. So you've got your day job, and you're doing all this other work to lead and support change, and that takes preparation. Best chefs prepare. They get everything ready and they get in. So you've got an opportunity when you know change is coming, because you'll see it. You see things coming in your business, to really prepare that change. And you know what? You can teach old dogs new tricks. He's not very productive, but he's pretty cute. The other thing that you can do as L&D professionals, and I said it's a rallying call, sorry, I keep telling you things you can do, is you can really set the tone. You set the tone for the change. Positive change is a good thing in business. We can't stand still. We all want to be in jobs. We want our kids to be in jobs. We want our grandkids to be in jobs. We need to keep moving. You have an opportunity to set that tone. You have an opportunity to work with your leaders and your managers and the wisest people in your business, because they've all got something to learn. They've all got an opportunity. And we've got an opportunity to get them ready for the future and for that change. You're in a unique place that you can challenge perspective. You can ask the whys, you can ask those questions, because you're forming those skills and you're building that workforce going forward. Use that opportunity. Use your unique place within the business. Don't worry about best practice. You've all heard before that best practice is a myth. Worry about good practice. Worry about practice that works in your business. Don't copy someone else, but do be prepared to steal and borrow. If it's there, if it's out there, steal and borrow from the best, but make it work from you. And when you've got your ducks in a row, keep going. Keep embedding it, keep it at the heart of what you do, and keep reminding that this is the core of what you're doing. And keep innovating, keep looking for new ideas, and keep going forward. Keep taking those relationships that you have and work with your business to make the change in a positive way, and embed that change. Sometimes skills are the way we make change happen. There's some really good examples of organisations that have been forces for good, that have done work where through a skills program they've actually brought the business change in place, and people don't even necessarily know they're changing. So that was a bit of a rush through after the beginning, I apologise. I've been Amanda. You can find me on Twitter at Pontecarlo Blue or at Team Unicorn. Cheers.
Right, okay, let's do this thing. Okay, culture, culture, culture. To paraphrase Taylor Swift, trying to sort culture is like trying to sort a crossword puzzle which has no answers. And to give you an example of this, I'm working with a client at the moment who is trying to solve their own culture puzzle this way. There's a values workstream, a culture audit, a wellbeing agenda, a programme of changing working patterns, diversity and inclusion push, emphasis on safety and better accident reporting, embedding continuous improvement mindset. Oh, and did I mention the massive restructure and recent acquisition? So all of this adds up to a really confusing picture. It's hard to see how things hang together. There's a lot of activity and possibly not a lot of sense, which is not great for culture as a starting point. Now, I'm a realist, so sometimes that's how it is internally. But long term, if there's activities happening here and other activities happening there, and we don't join them up, it means that a cohesive culture with an enduring story simply can't happen. It gets too small, it gets too fragmented. And we do fragment and box in organisations. It makes ticking so much easier. But it means that we talk at each other, not with. And this boxy approach to culture is convenient, but it's not how we are. The reality of our organisational life is much more like a murmuration of starlings. It moves, it shifts, it's dynamic, it's based on conversations, it's based on relationships, and there is not a box in sight. So when I'm working with a client on a murmuration mindset, it's about identifying the conversations and relationships which support positive, productive culture, and what spaces can we create for those conversations. So some basic points. Start with what's actually going on now. After a restructure, that does things to the dynamic in your organisation. So the temptations towards shiny, Google, Uber funkiness, all that stuff can come later. Work with what you have at the moment. Work with the reality. Understand your mindset, your change mindset. We surround ourselves with people who look like us and sound like us and act like us. Unconscious bias exists. And what it means is that we're not open to new ideas. It's the risk of monoculture. Is there space for counterculturalism? And I am not talking about disruption. What I'm talking about is what's at the edge of your sector, what's new, what's distinctive, what's disagreeable, and how do you incorporate that? If you're working in a murmuration, it requires leaders and managers to be more connected, not less. The invitation is get out from behind your desk or your role or your function and start talking to each other. It's about breadth and accessibility. Face-to-face spaces become really important. even virtually. Because the powerful, you need to upskill your facilitators, and we need to make content share internally more interesting and just less boxy. So what does that mean for you, for me, for the exhibition closing? What conversations do we need to create and generate? Know yourself. Be aware of what you will and won't tolerate, including background noise. What are you agreeable to? What are you going to be unreasonable about? Because all of these impact the culture that you create around you. So sometimes you're amazing, you're open, you're helpful, you're smart, you might even be wise. And other times, you're closed, you're small, you're defended, you're a bit of a git. So just understand what drives you back crap crazy and work to overcome it, because once you understand how to not go there again, it means you're creating a culture where your inner git doesn't run rampage. So when IT annoy you, or when leaders dismiss you, you can flip out, or you can learn how to not have that conversation again. We can role model to our staff and peers. We can get bigger. We can learn. So bring your noble, your awesome, your shiny, your brilliance, your kindness, your compassion, and if you can't find them, go hunt them out, because your culture needs you. We have the opportunity to light up shadow spaces. In the aftermath of the restructure, people were feeling bereft. We can create places where people can talk about that. And despite the apparent speed of a murmuration, you need to accept the pace of the collective. Rushing rarely works. Powerful actions and purposeful conversations do. So go slowly, go gently, no sudden moves. So, to help Taylor Swift in her crossword endeavours, I would say, be more starling. Thank you very much.
Who am I? What can I be? If I say I am this, what do you see? Does it matter? Do I care how you see me from over there? Yes, it matters, because you see, and if I like it or not, you're going to judge me. As things change from one moment to the next, your views, they shift and change in line with context. I couldn't do a session with that. Standing here now upon this stage, reciting poetry, even though I'm middle-aged. And as you judge my words and my speech, how far in the future could this version of me reach? Because the me that you see here isn't just me now, it's who I've been, what I've done, my past. Somehow it's here with me upon this stage. And still I wonder, what do you see? And that's why I'm scared and happy and angry and proud, standing here now in front of this crowd. Because I've made a choice to do something new. I've seen it before, but from very few. And with that choice, I show a new part of me, and then I wonder, what will you see? Will you accept the change? Will you take? Or will you be like Taylor Swift and shake it off? Like that Taylor Swift, and off to the charity shop with the rest of the thrift. Because me from the past had to answer the call, who am I, was my question to the glass on the wall. My first promotion, made up so proud to be able to say, I manage, I lead, and say that out loud. I'm a leader, a boss, but be different, I'm told. Who you are, it doesn't fit. You need and you mould. Unsure, but okay, and what do I know? I mean, they've been leaders for ages, so I'll give it a go. Okay, I say, and the new me comes to work, but my team, they're disappointed. Their boss, he's a jerk. Who are you? Where's Phil gone? This new you, we don't like him. You know what? He can jog on. I don't understand. I was told to be new. I was told I had to change and evolve and take a new view. And so whom do I listen? Do I listen to my boss or to my team? Oh, I don't know what to do. It's like a bad dream. But if I look back now, I can see through it all, I never really answered my question to the glass on the wall. To the present me then, When I change, when I move, I bring with me my past, and it allows me to choose. I make a change, and I have to wonder, what will you think? This new me with poems? Will I swim? Will I sink? Being a bit nervous. You know what? Let's stop and take a rest. Just for a moment, let's take a breath. To the future me then, how will I answer the call when my question is asked to the glass on the wall? Because the future is tied to the present and the past. My actions, my choices, they have a shadow to cast. In the work that we do with people every day, and their past and their present and their future is at play. I have a choice, like how to ignite with a slide deck, a story, a poem. I hope it's not. So yes, let's try something new and see what people think and try this new view. It's something we miss, I think, in our work as L&D, asking the question, who am I? We're often so damn busy with content design and delivery. And I think others will agree that working with self is worthwhile work for you and for me. So helping other folk think to answer the call, who am I, is the question to the glass on the wall. And for me, I'm okay at the moment about who I am and what I do and what is my flow. I enrich lives at work and I protect people too. But most of all, I love what I do. Who am I is a question that I ask a lot because the answer, it changes, but yet it does not. Who am I is a question that I often face because it helps, it gives me an anchor, a place, and that place really helps me because no matter what you see, I know that who I am is enough, and enough is me.